I despise this movie. I and I would in the vein of the numbers that I usually give to movies, I give this a 2 out of 10, which is the same number I gave to Zack Snyder's Justice League, but I despise this movie more than Zack Snyder's Justice League. There's a few reasons why I think it kind of isn't completely unbearable. I don't like very much about this movie, and it almost feels weird to kind of to go into my reasons why, because I think nothing works about this movie. I think this is a very unromantic film that knows nothing about relationships, because all of the conflict comes from the characters not communicating like they would in a relationship. I never see why Mia and Seb like each other, because there are songs in place of character development. Both of these actors are terrible singers and dancers. The choreography is bad. The music is boring. The cinematography is bland and feels like it's referencing old Hollywood instead of inspired by it. I feel like this is a high school college production, and I despise how it's written and directed and put together. I think that I really despise this movie. And I didn't mean to go into a whole rant on it, because that's just listing off a bunch of things and it's difficult for you to comment on that, but I despise this movie. And I think it's everything that I don't like about Damien Chazelle is presented here, because to me, his biggest weakness as a storyteller, and he didn't write the script for First Man, so as a visual storyteller, I think this weakness is still there. I think he tells stories of singularly obsessed people, and this usually, for me, results in unrecognizable human behavior. I think that he creates characters that are just not recognizable to me. And the only time it did work was Whiplash. I think Whiplash is far and away his most successful thing, and it works the entire way for me. And I can't stand this movie. I was like I definitely had a few conversations with Natalie of just how much we didn't want to rewatch this movie. But for this podcast, I rewatched this movie twice, and it was difficult for me.
I think you're right that Damien Chazelle makes movies about these singularly determined characters, and that's ultimately the thing that I think works about this movie, because I think this movie is very aware of all of the really deeply shitty qualities that each of these characters have and that their relationship has. Mm-hmm. And I guess I talk about balancing acts a lot, weird, multiple tones that are able to be held. And I think that when I think about, because the storytelling of this movie is one thing and the visual storytelling is another, and the musical storytelling is a third. And I don't think they all worked perfectly, but I think that the storytelling is something that I find deeply affecting. And I think this is ultimately a pretty good movie with a really fucking good ending. Because after spending this much time with people who kind of don't know how to communicate and really only know how to just support each other's goals because they want their own goals supported, and you can still have love and lust and connection and real lasting shit, I think that can all be real while still... This movie from the beginning tells you about these characters who are dreamers and have these, I think, for lack of a better term, delusions of grandeur about themselves. Mm-hmm. And I think that when I think about things that justify themselves as musicals, there's so many times where it's why is this a musical? Not just, it's in Hollywood, and Hollywood used to make musicals, so maybe we do a musical. That when this is the text of this movie and the characters that this movie spends its time with are just two people who the only way they can connect with somebody is by just getting them to literally step into their delusions. their delusions of grandeur. Come dance with me as we think about the stars we're going to be. That's the way that they connect. And the fact that it can have that, I think that can be in the text, that these people are just kind of so determined and so obsessed with themselves and what they think they should be, that the relationship is only ever going to be something, while still letting the love feel real, I think. And that final punch of that feeling of being able to move on with your life and be happy with the decisions you've made and be happy with the life you've had, and maybe even gotten the things that you didn't know if you were actually going to get them or not. And you can still see a thing from your past and be like, fuck, there really was something good there. And maybe there was a whole different version of this. And that's totally fucking fine that it's not. But that doesn't mean it couldn't have pretty easily existed in my head. And I think that I think that this movie about kind of delusional, self-obsessed dreamers who live this musical together, and then at the end share this one final musical number of them being like, we still know how to be delusional together and we know it would never work. Like, I think that's a really well determined and well thought out and nuanced story. And I think this movie's really fucking effective.
Cool. I'm glad. No, I mean, that was a nice way to put it all together.